Monday, January 27th, 2014. It was the day after the WWE Royal Rumble 2014 pay-per-view event that saw the 2014 Royal Rumble match, where the last CM Punk match ever took place. He entered the Rumble in the number one spot, lasted towards the end, got eliminated by Kane, and it was the next day in a meeting with Vince McMahon and Triple H in Vince McMahon's office, a mere hours before Monday Night Raw went on the air, when the entire wrestling world was shooken to its core over the announcement that CM Punk walked out on WWE. Many different reasons why. It was something that was building for many years, and it finally took place. Just a few months after that, he officially got his release and was fired and was gone from WWE, and thus gone from the pro wrestling world. Since then, Punk has made appearances at conventions. He had a brief stint on WWE Backstage, so he was back in some form in the wrestling world. And of course, the CM Punk chants have never stopped in crowds all across the world, mainly in Chicago. Whether it's WWE, mainly WWE, but in many different wrestling promotions, the CM Punk chants were deafening. When AEW first began in 2019, the thought of signing CM Punk seemed like a pipe dream. It was something that many people wanted, but it did not seem like it was something that was going to happen. Many Chicago shows, many All Out pay-per-views came and went, and no CM Punk appearance. Well, actually, there was only one All Out in Chicago, and that was in 2019 because of the pandemic last year. But it wasn't until just a few months ago when the rumors began speculating. Many well-respected wrestling sources began running with the story that AEW just made its biggest signing in CM Punk. The rumors were true. Everyone, welcome. This is Derek J. Speaks, and I'm here to give you my review of AEW Rampage from August 20th, 2021, live from the United Center in Chicago, Illinois, the biggest crowd AEW has ever performed in front of since its inception. Sold out 1,400 seats, was it? 14,000, I'm sorry. Excuse me. 14,000 seats within the first 30 minutes of going on sale, all based on speculation, all based on rumor. There was not a single announcement made by anyone from AEW, not Tony Khan, no one. It was all speculation. It was all rumor. It was all talk. And guys, that talk was all true, because tonight the wrestling world witnessed one of the biggest returns in its history with CM Punk. And the thing about that is, that's not an understatement. This return will go down as one of the biggest in the history of professional wrestling. I can't even really put into words the reaction that this man got when he came out. It has been 7 years, 6 months, and 24 days since CM Punk has stepped foot in a wrestling ring proper. You know it's him, you see his face, you hear his voice. He is right in the middle of the ring in front of a live crowd with a live microphone. 7 years, 6 months, and 24 days since that has happened. And here on this day, August 20th, 2021, on this night, on this show, in this company of AEW All Elite Wrestling, CM Punk did what many of us thought would never happen, and that is return to pro wrestling, and he did so in All Elite Wrestling. If you're new here, if you're coming back to this channel, welcome. I welcome you. Follow me here at DerekJ407. Follow me on Twitter, where I talk all things pro wrestling and anything else that I feel like talking about, at DerekJSpeaks. And let's get into it. The show kicked off. Big pyro, welcomed by the commentators, and they wasted no time. You heard the crowd chanting for him, and they let it linger for a minute, and then we heard Cult of Personality hit, and out comes CM Punk, standing on the entrance ramp, soaking in the huge ovation. It was thunderous. It is hard to put into words the kind of reaction this man got when he came out. It was amazing, for sure. He soaked it in. He went all around ringside, slapping hands. He jumped into the crowd at one point. I think it was in the entranceway. Hugged his sister and members of his family. I do not know if AJ Lee was there. It did not look like AJ Lee was there. AJ Lee was trending on Twitter, though. But it was special. They cut the music, so you just heard more of the fans chanting his name, cheering for him. They showed people in the crowd crying, which is an understandable reaction to this. And we hear Excalibur say they're going to a 90-second commercial, a minute and 30 seconds. Before we hear CM Punk speak for the first time. And I thought that was brilliant. You open with Punk coming out, that initial huge pop from the crowd. Everybody's going crazy. Everyone's hot for it. And then you go to commercial that gives people time to cool down for a second, kind of collect themselves, although I know it's very difficult to. But it also gives people who were not watching a chance to come in. Because, again, they never said that CM Punk was showing up. They didn't sell this show off of an announcement, off of any official confirmation that CM Punk was going to show up. It was all rumor. It was all speculation. Now, it was all speculation that was not, rejected or turned down by anyone. It was, if anything, it was fueled. But that's what's so special about this. But him coming out was that announcement, basically. And so they go to commercial, and that allows for anyone who was not tuning in to Rampage at that time to come on in. And that's exactly what happened. We cut back. He's in the middle of the ring, teary-eyed, red eyes, very emotional, and he just bears his heart out for everyone. Now, I'm not going to go through every single thing he said, because honestly, it's not for me to say it. I'm just here to recap a few of the points that stood out to me. But if you want to hear his full promo, please go back and watch this show however you can. Whatever cable provider you have, whatever means you have to rewatch this show or find clips online, please do it, because it was amazing. It's special. And I'll get into it towards the end, but it's moments like this that make me love professional wrestling. And when asked the question, why do I still watch wrestling? Stuff like this is why. But he said that he needed to get better. He needed to get healthier physically, mentally, emotionally, and he could not get better. He could not heal. He couldn't get better if he continued to stay in the same place that made him sick in the first place. And of course, we all know what he's referring to. There was never any mention of WWE. We did get a Ring of Honor mention. He did mention Ring of Honor. He mentioned it for a specific reason, which was the date, August 13th, 2005. That was his last official date for Ring of Honor. That was his last match. That was the last time he wrestled for that promotion. On that night, he came out for his match. He cried the entire way through. he left. He left ROH for greener pastures. And he said here in this promo on Rampage that on August 13th, 2005 was the day he left pro wrestling. He built Ring of Honor off of being a place for pro wrestlers to do their thing. And when he left Ring of Honor on that day, August 13th, 2005, in his mind, the way he feels, that is the day that he left pro wrestling. But now, on this day of August 20th, 2021, he is back. He mentioned how there's a lot of young guys in the locker room that he is ready to mix it up with. A lot of young guys who remind him, who reignite that passion for him of pro wrestling that he felt back in his Ring of Honor days. Seeing them out there and thinking to himself, why aren't you out there? Says he has a lot of scores to settle with many people in the back, and there's a lot of young guys who he wants to mix it up with, specifically mentioning one name in particular, that being Darby Allin. Of course, Darby Allin was the one who dropped that little teaser a few weeks ago in a backstage vignette mentioning the best in the world. And so now we have CM Punk out here on Rampage calling out Darby Allin, who they cut to. He, along with Sting, were sitting up in the rafters, looking down, watching down on everyone else at the United Center. Punk put Darby over, told him he's tough, told him, as a Chicagoan, he can point out tough, and Darby is someone who is tough. And he says Darby is all about danger. He's a daredevil. He does a lot of dangerous moves, a lot of dangerous stunts, but nothing will ever be as dangerous for Darby Allin to do. Nothing will ever be as dangerous as wrestling CM Punk. Specifically wrestling CM Punk in Chicago. And that is when Punk laid down the challenge. He told Darby, he said, Darby, I will see you, I will see Sting, and I will see everyone else on September 5th in Chicago at All Out. And there it is. The fans erupted once again. These fans were hanging on every word that Punk was saying. There were several cheers. There were several pops. Just the exact type of crowd reaction that you were hoping for a moment like this. But that was the big thing right there. Punk laid out the challenge, and basically it's accepted. You have to know. So at All Out, we are getting CM Punk in his very first official wrestling match in 7 years, and he's facing Darby Allin. Right before he left, right before he put the microphone down, Punk mentioned, all of you people here in attendance, you waited 7 years, and for that, on your way out, there's ice cream bars on me. And he got his ice cream bars. And here I am thinking it was just a little cute throwaway line, but then they cut to the commentators. On commentary, we had Taz, Excalibur, Mark Henry, and JR, who was filling in for Chris Jericho this week, who, might I add, did a very good job calling this moment, calling the return when Punk came out. So you can tell why they had JR in that moment, because JR can be pretty rocky on commentary these days, but in moments like this, that's where he thrives. That's where he shines the brightest. And it came through here. But we see all four men, they have ice cream bars, legitimate ice cream bars. Taz took a bite. And so, yeah, I don't know. They had him at the arena. I don't know if this is going to be a thing that's going to be actually sold. But CM Punk finally got his ice cream bars. So Punk left. They started his music back up, Cult of Personality, and the fans are singing it. So this is yet another song for the fans to sing, along with Judas, along with Tarzan Boy, along with Wild Thing. This is another wrestler's theme song for the crowd to sing along with. And later on in the show, they mentioned CM Punk will be making his debut on Dynamite next week when they're in Milwaukee. So this upcoming Wednesday, CM Punk will be making his debut on AEW Dynamite to, I guess, further the storyline and further the build for the match with Darby Allin at All Out, and saying whatever else is on his chest. And yeah, that was about it. And of course, following this moment, we had a few matches. Jurassic Express defeating Private Party in a tag team eliminator. The winning team to come out of this tournament will get a shot at the Young Bucks in the AEW tag team titles at All Out inside of a steel cage. So Jurassic Express were the first team to advance. After that, we had a squash match. Jade Cargill squashing Kiera Hogan, former Impact Knockouts tag team champion and Impact Knockout star, made Jade Cargill look good. And of course, in the main event, we had Jon Moxley demolishing Daniel Garcia, who had 2.0 in his corner. Of course, Garcia and 2.0 went on the attacked Moxley and Eddie Kingston, who was out there in Moxley's corner. They attacked them, and then we got the save by Darby Allin and Sting, and the babyfaces stood tall, and that was the show. I'm sorry there wasn't a more in-depth review and play-by-play breakdown of the matches, but that's not what this is for. There are many other well-respected YouTube reviewers and other podcasters out there who will probably do a better job breaking down those matches than I could. But honestly, that's not what I wanted to do here. I just wanted to talk about CM Punk, which I'm sure a lot of them are probably doing too, and you can listen to them after you're done listening to me. I appreciate you being here. I truly do. This was a great moment. Now, I'm not someone who's ever been the biggest CM Punk fan in the world where I absolutely love the guy, but I do love the guy. I love him. I respect him. He is someone who I enjoyed watching for many years. I was there to watch him in those Ring of Honor days, at least towards the end. I was there watching him as he broke through in ECW, the developmental brand basically, or just the lower C level brand on the main roster. I was there to see him cash in to win the World Heavyweight Championship on Monday Night Raw. I was there when he first turned heel, started the Straight Edge Society, when he cut that pipe bomb promo and took off into the stratosphere, at least becoming a much bigger star than he had ever been portrayed as prior. And I was there all the way up until he left. And for a while there, he was exactly what he said he was, and that was the best in the world. Now, I'm sure even that's up for debate. This was a time where I wasn't exactly watching other promotions as heavily as I do now, specifically New Japan and all that sort of stuff. But CM Punk truly was one of the best in the world. He was one of the best wrestlers. He was one of the best on the mic. He was one of the best personalities in the world of professional wrestling. He came as he was. And those 7 years went by, and you just kind of got over it. You got over it. He left. He left for his own reason. He left on his own terms. Was it right for him to walk out on the company? No, I don't think so. But he had to do what he had to do for himself. And that I can never argue with. He had to get himself straight. He had to get himself physically, mentally, and emotionally balanced. And he has done that. He tried his hand at MMA. You know how that went. He has done many things. And he has gotten to a place where I can tell he feels at peace with himself. He feels healthier. He feels stronger. He feels just better in every conceivable way. And you can just tell by looking at him. You can tell by hearing it in his voice. You can tell by seeing it. The pure, raw emotion that you just cannot manufacture. Now, I'm not here to crap on or anything about WWE. That's not my place to do that. CM Punk can do that all day long. I'm not going to do that here. This has nothing to do with WWE. This is about CM Punk, and this is about AEW. And them pulling this off, this is a huge coup for Tony Khan and his entire company. Now, what do you do from here? Do you build the entire company around him? Do you make him the golden goose? Do you make him the focal point going forward? Who's to say? He is easily their biggest attraction now. Whereas before, the likes of Jon Moxley and Chris Jericho kind of held up that mantle, and even Sting in recent months. But CM Punk is easily by far the biggest star that they have right now. It's the biggest signing that they could possibly make at this particular moment. Give it about a month or two. We'll see when Bryan Danielson comes in. And we'll see if anyone else. I know Tony Khan was on Twitter earlier today teasing that there's going to be an even bigger surprise coming in the pipeline. So we'll see what that is. But as of right now, this is the biggest shock. This is the biggest signing that they could possibly make for this company. And this is a huge deal. You do not have to be a CM Punk fan to recognize that and understand that. That this signing for this company is a huge, huge deal. And I'm very happy for them. I'm very happy for the success that AEW has had as someone who not only enjoys the show and enjoys the brand, but enjoys pro wrestling as a whole. Did you see the reaction online and in that building and all across the world these past few weeks with all the CM Punk news? Now, I'm sure there's always negativity out there in wrestling. Wrestling fans are not always generally happy. So there's always going to be room for complaining. But just the pure emotion of people being so happy, so genuinely happy to see this man back in wrestling, it was amazing to see. I tweeted out, and I still stand by it, and I do not believe it's hyperbole. I don't believe it's an understatement. There is a passion for pro wrestling. There is a passion, a love, an appreciation for pro wrestling that lay dormant for a very long time for many people, especially someone like CM Punk. Maybe even particularly CM Punk. It lay dormant for a very long time. And it's nights like this and it's moments like the ones tonight with CM Punk coming back that shows you that it is alive and well. And as I mentioned it briefly earlier, when I'm asked, or if I ask myself, why do I still watch this stuff? Why do I still watch wrestling? Why do I still review it? Why do I still talk about it? Why do I still engross myself into this? And it's because of stuff like this. It's not because of Raw. Okay, I'm sorry. I said I wasn't going to bash WWE, but here I am. It's not because of Raw. It's not because of the corny bullshit that we get sometimes. It's not because of the frustrating, angering moments that happen, whether it's WWE, whether it's AEW, whether it's Impact, whether it's wherever. It's because of my love for this business. It's because of my appreciation for this business and what it has done for me, what it has done for my family, what it has done to make me a better person. And I've watched wrestling every single week, basically of my entire life, but at least for the well over the last 15 to 20 years of my life has been all about pro wrestling. And I'm just very excited. I'm very excited for that match at All Out. I can't even explain thoroughly how excited I am for that. Darby Allin versus CM Punk is going to be badass. And I'm very much so looking forward to that match. I don't know where its placement on the card is going to be, but that is the main event right there. You can open the show, you can close the show, you can put it on the middle, you can put it on right before. That is the main event of that show, hands down. After that, what you do with this man, who knows, man? But it's going to be a lot of fun to see. And I don't know about all of you, but I intend on having as much fun watching AEW, Dynamite, Rampage, All Out, any and all other pay-per-views going forward. I intend on having as much fun as I possibly can with this brand if they're going to be pumping out stuff like this. So they got CM Punk. The next big surprise, the next big rumored signing is Bryan Danielson. When is he going to show up? He's going to show up at that Arthur Ashe show in New York in September. Maybe at All Out, maybe a different show. Who knows? But that's the next one on the docket. And who knows what other surprises come out there. Ruby Riott, now Ruby Soho. That could be a big addition to the women's division. We could see her at All Out in the Casino Battle Royal for the women. Any other big names out there? Any other big surprise acquisitions that could be made? I'm all for it. Because this is it, man. This is what I love. This is what I appreciate. This is what I love to talk about, even if it means talking about it way longer than I anticipated. This video, I did not anticipate it going this long, but I don't care. I love it because I love talking about this stuff, and I love talking about it with all of you guys because I know all of you guys are just as passionate about this as I am. For the good, for the bad, this is why we watch pro wrestling. And like I said, you can be a CM Punk fan, you can be a CM Punk mark, diehard, or you can be one of his biggest detractors and hate his guts. You cannot deny how special of a moment tonight was and how special it is going to be at All Out and how special it is going to be going forward. So, thank you all for listening. I'll be back right here on the YouTube channel tomorrow night for SummerSlam live at Allegiant Stadium, headlined by John Cena and Roman Reigns. And then, of course, the following night for TakeOver 36 with Karrion Kross versus Samoa Joe for the NXT Championship, Adam Cole, Kyle O'Reilly, the undisputed finale, and what could potentially be Adam Cole's last match in NXT and WWE in general. So this is a big wrestling weekend, and this is just the first stop. So I thank you all for joining me, and I will see you all tomorrow night for SummerSlam and again for TakeOver. And CM Punk's back, y'all. Let's be happy. Holy shit, man. CM Punk is back. Wow.